What's up, guys? This is Aaron, and it's time for week 2 college football picks and predictions. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for you this week. So last week overall, we were 11-4, and if you found everything on Twitter, my handle's in the description. It was 11-4. That's plus 6.5 units. So if you followed everything, you made some money. All right, so for this week, let's see, we got Rutgers laying 22 against Akron. So basically, Rutgers has a bye week next week, and we all know that Shiano likes to run the score up. In some of these games, Rutgers doesn't tend to win, more than 5-6 games a season, even on their better years. So he usually takes advantage of these games against the bad teams to run the score up. So he's 41-23-1 ATS against non-con foes in his whole time at Rutgers. So last week they got a late cover against Howard, depending on where you got the number at. But, they're up big in the fourth quarter, and Shiano's trying to score a touchdown late to cover the number. We like that. So let's take Rutgers minus 22. We got Oklahoma laying 27.5 against Houston. So, last week Houston was really, really bad against UNLV, and this was a home game. Obviously Houston, new coach, lost some players, lost, their whole staff from last year. So, kind of had this team pegged as like a 4-8 type team. And it really showed last week against UNLV. They got, it was 24-0. They're down to a Mountain West team. They got some garbage time yards. They got some garbage time points. But, the fact of the matter is, they got no offense. Their defense is decent, but, this is a whole different animal here. And Oklahoma didn't look great last week against Temple. They won 51-3. They covered for us, so we got a winner there. But, Brent Venables, defensive coach, so they're going to come out, play some defense. We like the offense. We like the quarterback situation with Arnold at quarterback for Oklahoma. Hopefully here in week 2, the offensive line plays a little bit better. I just think this is a mismatch, and I think we're going to get, at least maybe a 31-point victory for Oklahoma. So let's lay 27.5. Number 3 is Northern Illinois plus 28 at Notre Dame. So, Northern Illinois, they're kind of a scrappy team that pretty much all they do is run the ball. Their head coach, Hammock, he likes to chew clock, playing these tough weather games, and there's supposed to be a little bit of weather tomorrow. Like last year, Northern Illinois goes to BC, come away with a win. That's against an ACC team. And more importantly, Notre Dame's got, they just came off this, pretty difficult, tough defensive game against A&M, probably slightly beat up. But next week they play at Purdue. So that's one that they really can't take for granted. So let's take Northern Illinois plus 28. Number 4, Navy and Temple. This is a pretty simple one. We're going to go first quarter under 9.5 points. Obviously Temple, pretty bad. Scored 3 points last week against Oklahoma. We know that, they lost a bunch of players, anybody that was any good. The quarterback's gone to Rice, so they've got no offense. Their defense is pretty decent, and they did hold Navy to 18 points last year. So they do have the ability to kind of stop the option well enough. And Navy, the triple option, they're going to try to chew clock. You really just have to hope that you don't get, those like chunk plays, that 1 or 2 play action passes for 50 yards that Navy will hit once in a while. So I think at least early on, as long as we can, kind of get past the scripted plays on the first possession or 2, we should be able to get this home. So let's go first quarter under 9.5. The last one I'll give you, South Alabama and Ohio, over 55.5. So I didn't like it when it was 57.5. Got lucky. The line comes down. So basically the handicap here is Ohio played Syracuse last week on the road with like 6 returning starters on the whole team, and still the game total hit 60 points, 38-22. So they scored 22 against Syracuse on the road with a bunch of new starters. The quarterback, Parker Navarro, he looked a little better than I thought he would. They're not returning very many people on offense, so Ohio actually kind of dominated early. The first few possessions of the game, it took a little while for Syracuse to kind of get in the game, but you could kind of see late in the game where Ohio started giving up some of those chunk plays and points. So you got 60 there last week from South Alabama. They played North Texas, and they gave up 500 yards plus on defense, and they achieved 500 yards plus on offense. So obviously, they're throwing over 400 yards. They gave up over 400 yards passing. So especially, Ohio is well coached. I kind of expect more of the same. So, if these teams are going to be a little more explosive on offense than in years past with their new coaches now. South Alabama lost their coach last year. He's now the DC for Alabama. So they got Major Applewhite as the new head coach, another guy from Alabama in the past. So a more offensive-minded team now. Whereas, used to, for the past 4 or 5 years, they played really solid defense. So, that game, I think it was 52-38. So you had 90 points in the South Alabama game. You had 60 points in the Ohio game. So hopefully we can kind of get more of the same here. So let's go over 55.5. So I'm going to put my Twitter handle in the description. Follow, like the video, share the video. If you're making money, which you should be off of these videos, give me a like and a subscribe and a follow.